Hi, welcome back. This is Share the Load, and I'm talking to my friend Charlie James. And you can tell people who you are.
Hi, I'm Charlie James. I'm first and foremost Mia's friend. And then also sometimes I do comedy when I'm not hanging out with Mia. That becomes more and more true, actually, as time goes on. I really
But
am
sometimes,
like,
sometimes you do comedy while I'm there.
yes, yes. And that is like a good crossover event where I get to be both things at the same
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. It's true. We like very quickly started hanging out a lot because
Yes.
we go to Torah study with Aaron,
Hmm.
who was on the show last week, and then we go to temple, and then we do all kinds of other Jewish stuff.
Yeah.
Do we do any
And
stuff that's
sometimes
not
none.
not Jewish stuff?
Oh, when I do comedy shows, it's not that Jewish, but I saw a Jewish play of yours, and in that way, it
That's
was Jewish. Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. It wasn't a Jewish play, but it was part of a Jewish playwrights festival. So yeah,
Yeah.
Jewish. We maybe we should try to do some not Jewish stuff.
We should just go to like the beach. That is the
Whoa.
least Jewish place, I feel.
I was gonna say I don't beach. I don't
Yeah, me
beach.
neither. I really don't like it
Have
there.
you seen me?
It's we're too pale.
Oh,
Yeah. No.
I don't like the sun. I don't like sunscreen. I don't like sand. I don't like cold water. I don't like the majority of people who go to the beach. Like
Yeah.
it's not for me. It's not for me.
I gotta have a lot of sunscreen if you're gonna get me to the
Ugh.
beach.
I hate how
Yeah.
slimy sunscreen is.
Yeah. And if
And
it's not
it,
slimy, it's chalky, and that's like even worse.
that's right. A
Yeah.
lot of people listening to this are like, "You're autistic." And I'm like, "You're probably right." I get told
Yeah.
that a lot.
Every day I find out a new autism symptom that I have, and I'm like, okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
if you say so. I think that's probably true. I got told that yesterday because I was like very literally interpreting a text message.
This happened to me. Someone said something was going to take 6 hours. I kind of told you about
Oh
this. And I was
yeah.
like, 6 hours from the time that we start is 100% what they mean.
Right.
And they were like, no, the process is 6 hours. And I was like, well, okay.
But that's not helpful because if you, what I'm hearing when you say it's going to be 6 hours is that that's how much time I need to block off from my day
Yeah.
to do this.
Not the vibe is 6 hours and we'll see what actually happens. I'm hearing like at the 6 hour mark, I am free to go
I'm
home.
done. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm concerned for you in the rest of that tattoo experience. I hope that's
Yep.
okay to
Me
say,
too.
but
Yeah.
TBD, I'm sure it'll look really good.
Thank you so much. I really hope. I
You know
really
what?
hope.
And if it doesn't, you can't see it.
That's the best. The back half of my body, I don't know about you, a very few tattoos in the back because I'm not really looking back there.
I know. I have a tattoo from someone who I'm no longer friends with, and I'm like, I so wish that I had asked you to put this on the back of my leg
Yeah,
and not the front of my leg, because now I see it all the time.
I
It's
know.
also it's a silly cartoon dog holding a flower wearing a shirt that says I love life. And every time I look at it, I'm a little bit like, fuck you, guy.
Yep. Yeah, on a bad day, I bet that's the worst tattoo to look down on.
Yeah, because I'm like, this friend just was like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And I was like, whoa, that's okay. Okay.
I got a matching tattoo with my best friend around 2 months before we like stopped being friends altogether.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. We'd been planning it for like a year and oh man, it just even at the time we got it already there were some issues happening and I was like I don't know what's going to happen and I had to be like and also it was his first tattoo. So I had to be like you have to promise me that if tomorrow you and I hate each other's guts you are still okay with getting this tattoo today. Like I
Yeah,
need cuz like I have a ton. I'm going to be fine.
right.
You don't have any other tattoos. What is this? Yeah.
Whoa.
All the time I have stress dreams that he gets it removed and doesn't tell me, and I'm walking around with a solo friendship tattoo.
Solo friend
It,
tattoo. That's so sad. That's
yeah,
so sad.
yeah.
Oh. Well, I'm sure it's cool.
It's pretty cute. It's pretty
Yeah.
cute. Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay, so let's see. We don't really have a plan. Um,
Yeah.
but I was thinking about like stuff that you and I talk about a lot, and I don't know, what do you think we talk about a lot?
Here's what I
Art.
think we talk about. Yeah, art, theater of some kind, comedy and non.
Mm.
Um, being Jewish slash gripes with Judaism. um, what we eat. We talk a lot about
Oh,
what
we
we
do talk
eat.
a lot about what we
You and I,
eat.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Well, okay, so I have a question. Um, when you look at like your own body of work, like
hmm
creative body of work, what are the themes that you notice that you like come back to again and again and again?
Oh man. Um, I would say the biggest one for me is like feeling like an alien or an outsider in some way and trying to get comfortable with that rather than
Mm.
rejecting that or having to become like fully ingrained to feel good. So
Hmm.
that's like the biggest thing for me. I think that's just some only child
I mean, it sounds like
bullshit.
gender stuff.
Absolutely. It's like gender. It's like really most aspects of my life. I'm like, I came here in a little spaceship and now I'm here and I'm hanging out. I'm here to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I live here now, so I'm gonna make the best of it.
totally.
Yeah.
And like, I'm still gonna be a space alien and I'm gonna eat goo and my friends are gonna have to be cool with that. But like,
I-
I'm gonna try whatever you guys eat on your planet and it'll be fine.
Well, you might end up with severe indigestion.
Yeah, often.
Very likely. I've rejected most human food. I really mostly have to eat whatever alien food is okay with my tummy.
Yeah, you have a very specific alien. Uh,
Mm.
I was gonna say biosphere, and that's not really. I've been thinking a lot about the dome in Las Vegas, the sphere in Las Vegas, the dome in Las Vegas. Yeah, I'm just like, what if that was an ecosystem and they had like plants and animals in there and
Ooh.
stuff?
Isn't that kind of like what the Simpsons movie was about? Don't they build a dome? Never mind.
And there's like a Mars experiment like that where they locked people up for like a year and a half in this like Mars simulator.
Whoa.
Yeah, just to see if they would all get along. And they did end up having sex with each other, which I think is like,
Well, that's not surprising. I mean,
yeah,
it's like a short, it probably like takes, I mean, I don't know. The line between like, going from like sex to murder, I feel like is like a really quick tip is where my
yeah,
mind goes. Like I'm like once you're fucking, you probably also are like ready to murder somebody
yeah,
in a Lord of the Flies simulation.
totally. Your feelings are all the way there.
Right.
I'm having sex and I'm ready to kill.
And I'm ready to kill. That's yeah, makes sense to me. Um, the alien thing is funny. I feel like I hear like so many trans people use the alien like
Yeah,
feeling like an alien and
totally.
I asked someone I'm dating recently and I still have to ask how much is okay for me to ever share about our life together, but I feel like this is okay. I was like, I'm curious about how you see me and he was like, trying to find, he said some really cute shit, but I was like, am I like a little alien, wibbly wobbly, like outer space? And I don't think that was how he sees me, but that was what I was like, you
I
must see
must
me
be an
like an
alien to
alien.
you. Completely. Completely. And it's never that other people see us that way. It's always an internal. I think I just spent so much time growing up with like girls and women, and I always was like, and again, it's like crazy that I'm here right now. And you
Mm.
guys, I'm just like,
And you
I feel
don't
like I'm
you
tagging along.
right or like like my cosplay must be very convincing.
Yes, yes. I mean, it felt like doing drag all the time. And to them, it's like, oh no, it's just, you're just like one of the girls. And I'm like, well, that's nuts.
Yeah,
Because I know that underneath my human skin is like the scales and the,
it's
you know,
blue.
I have to be, yeah, it's blue and I have to be like moist all the time and like, or I dry out and something bad happens. But to them, they're like, no, I see you as like a normal. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, okay.
Well, that's something that I feel like I mean, nobody can see you right now. Um, but
Yeah.
you read to me as a man.
And
I'm
I
like,
love, and I love it.
I mean, like, I think I would, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what other people see. So I'm like, what I see may or may not be like, what other, how other people are perceiving the people in my life. But I do think that that's like generally the interpretation of you by like the average person.
Yeah, it's I now almost universally pass unless something fruity happens, and then like occasionally someone like a stranger will start using they them pronouns, and it's like I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, what tipped them off? But um, but almost always, especially like I think to cis people, I just read cis because
Yeah.
they're moving through the world. Like, why would there be a trans person here right now?
Right.
And it's like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I
I
like
but
that. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think what's coming to mind for me is like the way that, my parents, they're in their almost in their 70s. My mom's in her 70s. My dad is not, and he would be very upset if I said he was in his 70s. So I feel like I have to give this really long explanation.
Yeah.
He's 69 and three quarters. So so they live on the west side of Los Angeles. And what I've noticed is that, like, where you and I live on the east side, like, you see a diverse range of gender presentation.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I've used this metaphor before for other things, but like when I took a painting class in college, you think there's like six colors. And then you start the class and you start learning about like this green has a little orange in it, or like has a little purple in it, or like this shadow has some red in it. And then all of a sudden you look at a tree where you're like, it has a brown trunk and green leaves, and it's actually like 75 different colors. And I feel that way about gender, but it's like a thing that you actually have to be exposed to in order to like
Totally.
see. And I noticed that like my parents don't see that, because where they live, a mere 8 miles away or whatever, like there's two genders almost
Yeah.
exclusively.
Yeah, like truly probably just less diversity, less conversations about it. The trees are green
The
and
trees are
orange
green.
and it's like that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The sky is blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like I can I don't know, I'm like, I want to tell this little story, but I'm afraid that I'm like violating privacy, but I don't think it really matters. I'll just leave it anonymous. I was dating a trans girl, someone we both know,
Hmm.
and one time we were out and she used the men's bathroom, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, do you know what you look like? Like,
Yes,
you
yes.
can't go in there. And then I really had to kind of check myself, because I was like, maybe I'm not seeing what other people are seeing, and they might be more aware of what other people are seeing. It's also very possible that they haven't kind of like updated how they see themselves.
Totally.
Like that's also a thing, but I kind of was like, it was a combination of a bunch of stuff where I was like, what are you doing? And then I was like, well, maybe actually I don't know what other people are seeing.
This exact experience happened, not to be like, the rat king of queer dating in Los Angeles, but
Uh-huh.
the person that you're talking about, their ex, I had
Yeah.
that experience with them. And I said, what? Why are you going into the men's bathroom? That's nuts.
Yeah, why
And
would
they
you
were
do
like, well,
that?
that's just like probably the most people see me that way. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I do not see you that way at all.
Right.
And I would be really surprised to hear that other people do. But if in your experience, that's
Right.
where you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the really sad part was that when I asked them about it, they were like, well, there were a lot of families in there in the women's
Yeah.
room. And I like
Yeah.
had to stop myself from crying. But I don't know, it's different like if we go to the bathroom together. I don't know, whatever. Anyway,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
In pairs is so different.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I was like, I was like a butch teenager, and all
Not
the time,
the
I
photos you show me made me. Can you hold that a little farther away from your?
a little
It's like
farther. Yeah,
popping a little bit.
too
Thank
hot,
you.
too hot.
Yeah, too hot. Hot mic.
Um, uh,
I don't know. Maybe you were showing me pictures from a period where you were like really trying to.
I
You
think I
show.
was, I think I was showing you college,
Okay.
and in college, I had this year where I really just wanted to be a cis straight woman. It was
Oh
so
my
important to me.
God.
Yeah, just was like, well, maybe I haven't like tried that hard.
Right, because society is not constantly telling you that that's your only option. You just
Yes.
haven't considered, maybe I'm just a cis straight woman.
Yeah, I hadn't.
Yeah.
It hadn't even occurred to me to give it a shot, and I really did. Um, but yeah, no, when I was like a teenager, all the time, because I just looked like a prepubescent boy,
Me too.
and yeah, oh my God, I would get yelled at in the women's restroom constantly, and I was just like, I think supposed to be in here. Like I'm not. I don't understand why you're upset with me.
Yeah.
But that's just little butch life. I
Mm.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, there was a long time in my life where people just like total strangers, a lot of people just assumed that I was a lesbian. And I was like, well, that's funny.
Why would anyone think that?
Yeah, why would anyone think that? I mean, I'm not a lesbian. I don't identify as a lesbian. I think these days I'm feeling a lot more like a fag than a dyke, and
Hmm.
I'm really enjoying that for myself. Um, I'm in my like Timothy Chalamet. He's outgrowing me, Timothy.
Yeah, he's leaving the twink
He
flame.
is.
You have to carry the torch, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He's gonna be able to grow a full beard one day,
Mm.
and I'll just be the lone twink left behind.
It is weird that he's gonna get older and become like an adult
I
man.
know. I know. I mean, we've seen this, like, we watched this happen with, or I'm a little older than you, but I watched this happen with Leo,
Yes, this is
you know?
a big Leo. I don't want to say problem, but
I mean, Leo's a problem in a lot of ways, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I hope that Timothy dates people his own age, but Leo did really go from like trans mask twink euphoria to like middle-aged dad.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
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 And he was taking a lot of movies that seemed really stressful, and I feel like he
Hmm.
just like immediately aged into the roles.
Yeah.
Like he was like the aviator, got it, and then
Got it.
from then on I was like, oh
Yeah, what's going on? I
yeah.
know. I heard that he um I heard that this is a silly thing to talk about, but I heard that he thinks farts are really funny. And so he like farts on his co-stars, and that this is why Claire Danes hated him in Romeo and Juliet because he kept farting on her. And she didn't think it was funny.
That's wild.
I'm of two minds about this because I think farts are really funny, and I also like fart a lot because I have a bunch of digestive issues.
Right.
But, I wouldn't fart on somebody else on
Especially
purpose
if after the
at
first
work.
time you go, I guess that didn't go so well.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I just got to farting territory with the person that I'm dating, and I'm really relieved.
That's huge. That's huge.
I
Except, I
know.
mean, there's a point where you go too far that
Mm.
I've experienced where I'm like, some of these we needed to have in private.
Yeah.
It's like some of these were just for us, and wow.
Yeah, I should have like pulled down my pants for that so I could leave it behind in the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've just given up. My stomach stuff is like it's just part of who I am and what the deal is when you sign up for this. And I try to tell people like, sorry, I farted. It might be stinky for a little bit, and if we gotta move, that's okay.
If we have to move houses, that's fine. We can go to another city.
Yeah,
It's
don't go
cool.
under the covers.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's where I do my best work.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say my farts are way healthier than they've ever been, which is like a huge deal for me because I used to be truly afraid to go out in public.
That's huge. As long as you know when they're gonna happen, that's like the biggest thing for
And I
me.
usually do. I feel like that's a thing with age. Like my dad just is like walking and toots come out of his butt. And he's like, oops.
That's so awful. I There was like a year of my life where things were uncertain. Like I
Uh-huh.
never knew when it was gonna happen, and I could keep it together while I was awake. But as
Yeah.
soon as I was asleep, it was crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was dating this guy, and I just remember there was one night where I think we woke up every like 15 minutes. Like both of
Wow.
us were awoken.
By your farts.
Hmm.
Is this before you cut out dairy? It must have been, right? Because,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But
Because that
also,
was
I don't
recent.
know. A lot was going on back then. Yeah.
Like emotionally?
No, just like intestinally. I don't really
Oh,
know. Like, I don't think I was doing anything that different, and yet chaos in those days.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot lately about like how grateful I am to be as healthy as I am now. And like even
Yeah.
there's like a lot of people around me who because of like the way that I have to handle my stuff, like it seems like I'm not well, but like I'm
But it's the
actually
thing that keeps you
it's
well.
the thing that keeps me well. And to know that is such a gift. Um yeah, okay, wait. I wanted to go back to something about how you do what you do because I think I see something in how you're like handling your work, art, creative life that I think is really admirable and I think a lot of people would really benefit from hearing it. And here's what it is.
Hmm.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, that you've like taken a lot of your work into your own hands. Like you're like, I'm gonna put on this event. I'm gonna put on this show so that I get to perform and I get to give my friends opportunities to perform. And I did that when I was like in my, I don't know, like mid 20s in New York trying to make theater happen. Like I was putting on events and for me it was like I want to be able like I need to flush out my resume. And so I'm going to put event planning, organizing, producing, writing, directing, performing on my resume and I'm just going to host an event essentially so that I can do that. And I feel like there's just a lot of like waiting for opportunities to come or trying to like join other people's stuff, like would you
Yeah.
please have me kind of
Hmm.
energy and like you and I live in Los Angeles, no one's gonna like the idea of being discovered, I feel like is like I've just put that completely away in the garbage. So I just want to
Yeah.
hear about like what that process was like for you.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I've kind of always been like that. Like when I started comedy, I was doing a lot of improv at this theater that was really run by like two people. One of them so toxic.
Mm.
I won't even get into it. I credit him with like most of the positive and negative like parts of myself for sure. But
Whoa. Was this
but
in Chicago?
this was in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like one of the things I learned was like if you want to do something, you just have to like learn how to do it and then execute and you get better over time. But this was like I mean, there really was one man who like put together the shows, had the venue, learned how to make posters and like learned graphic design, figured out how to like use social media to advertise. And I just was like, oh, okay. Like if I want to do stuff, I can just do it. And waiting for other people to invite me is like
Mm-hmm.
to me the worst feeling in the world because especially in LA, like there are just so many talented people. You're going to be waiting for a really long time, and it has nothing to do with you. It's that like the line is long.
Yeah,
So,
the pool is big.
it's massive. It's
Yeah.
massive.
Right. I think, it's also a really amazing way to like build community and kind of make a name for yourself within a community to like
Yeah.
be the host, the kind of like person who creates the watering hole, the delta where like all the channels merge. Um, I think it's also, I don't know, it's a lot to take on, but you also get to kind of decide, yeah, like what, I don't know. I enjoyed your show so much, the one that you put on Trans Day of Remembrance. Like I was like crying, laughing, and it was like from you and your co-host, but like also from the people that you put on
We
the
had some
lineup.
really
Like,
great
oh
people.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's such a treat to get to do that show in particular because it feels like a big community event.
yes.
Like, I mean, I tend to host a lot. It's not like my favorite role. I would so much rather be a guest and show up and do my thing and hang out. But with that show in particular, I really like hosting because it's like I get to select, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, just anyone I want to come on, and we try to make it like a really specific show, and then it feels like there's a sense of community because everyone's trans, and like, yeah, it's such a treat. I love
Yeah.
doing it.
I mean, it's such a important, like, I feel like there's a lot of, um, well, I don't know. Here's a question. How do you experience imposter syndrome, or like when does it show up and how do you deal with it?
Um, I don't think that I do. I know that
What?
that sounds crazy. Um, I definitely experience, I never feel like I'm an imposter, but I often feel like, oh, I'm like a beginner, but I'm never like worried that I've tricked other people. Like if I'm down on myself, it's because I'm like I haven't learned everything I have to learn about this yet.
Hmm.
But I don't think I have the inverse where I'm like I think I've tricked people into believing.
Is that what you think imposter syndrome is? That's a really interesting take.
Yeah, like I feel like the way I've heard it described is like I've somehow fooled everyone into thinking that I am a professional or that I'm good at this. But the truth
Oh.
is I'm an imposter and I'm bad.
Oh, interesting.
What's your like read of it?
Yeah. I mean, I feel my imposter syndrome shows up where I'm like, it doesn't feel like I've tricked people. It's just more like, who am I to call myself that? Or like, I don't know what I'm
Oh,
doing.
yeah. No, I do have that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You're like, what? Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
like, yeah, because the reason I asked you that was because I was like, I think for a lot of people, there's sort of these like imaginary, like, well, once I get this or once I've done this, then I'll be able to host the events. Then I'll know how to do
Totally.
that. And it's like, no, you actually, excuse me, you learn how to do it by doing it.
Yeah.
And there's like things where like obviously you don't want to take that approach, like being a doctor.
Right. You learn by
You
watching
learn by doing the surgery. You
and
just
seeing.
do you just cut a person open and then you know how to do it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, not for that. But like I think with a
But
lot of,
performance, I think. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and like if putting on events, like you might put on an event and then realize after the fact, like, okay, I should have done this earlier in the timeline, or like, next time I want to make sure I have 12 of these instead of 6 of these, or like,
Yeah.
I learned about marketing, like this worked, this didn't work. But I see it a lot with like it came up in my educator training this past week, this idea of like, a lot of people often in that program, I see them kind of go like, well, I'm not ready to teach yet. And I'm like, well, when do you think you're going to be ready to teach? Like you're going to learn something and then you're going to teach it to someone. And then you're going to teach it again and again and again and again.
Right. Right.
That's how you learn to do it.
It's just getting reps in. Like
Right. Well,
I
that's what
used to
Aaron said too.
100%. Like you just get started and oh, I loved Aaron's episode.
Aw.
Yeah. Anyways, I didn't realize Aaron had worked for One Table, but okay, whatever.
I didn't know any of that about him.
I know. We're
But
learning.
we're learning. But I also was not surprised that he like worked in fashion briefly. I was like, that seems
No, you can tell. He's got
so
looks.
fashionable. I know. I know. He's got
Yeah.
style, that guy.
But I really think it is just reps and practice. Like I have this I don't do it that often anymore cuz my duo partner Chris lives in Chicago still. But we do a two-man improv show that we like tour around to a bunch of different festivals. And I mean, we've probably done, I don't know, we've done many shows. And just over time we realized if you look at my face and you look at Chris's face, there is something about us where just like by looking at us, we don't inspire confidence. And a lot of the success of an improv set, I think, is the people walk out on stage and you go, okay, I think they're going to be fine. I'm not worried about them.
And that's not the case for you, is what
I
you're
don't think our
saying?
faces don't say don't say good at improv. I don't know.
What?
But we
But
figured out that
okay.
if prior to starting improvising, we had like an incredibly tight, funny, scripted intro,
Mm.
people once people saw that we could execute that, they were like, we're fully on board for whatever improvised thing you guys do for the next 25 minutes. But
Oh.
without that like tight intro, and these are just like the kind of things where like, over years of doing a specific show, you figure out what works and what doesn't. You try different things and you tighten
Totally.
it up, and then you're like, okay, now I know that this thing works and this thing doesn't work. Like if I'm putting together a lineup of a show, it's like at this point it's kind of intuitive, but I had to try a lot of different versions of it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like putting together a mixtape.
Yeah,
You may
it
not know what a
is.
mixtape is, Charlie, but a mixtape is something we used to. I'm kidding. I never made a mixtape. I made mixed CDs.
Right.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I've
And
burnt a
now,
CD.
yeah, I've burned.
People will say I didn't, but I I burnt at least 3 in my lifetime.
Okay, I can attest though for our audience that you are very good at improv. I saw your improv group and it blew me away.
Thank you. That was our second show. Oh, I
Oh
guess that
my
was our
God.
third. It started as just a mashup of trans and gender nonconforming people. And then we were like, wait, we're so cute. We should hang out
You guys are
more.
so cute and you're
Thank
so
you.
talented. I mean, I wanted to see more of the improv. Finn's singing, like just out
Yeah.
of the thin air and like the way that their face like twitch it, that they can like make their face twitch. I don't know. I was like mesmerized.
I am completely under Finn's spell. Whatever
Yeah.
is going on there. I'm like,
That
yeah, for
that is
sure.
a magic person. That is a
Yeah.
person with some real, and I say this without the a fairy. That's a fairy.
Yeah.
Like a
You're right.
magical
I say
whimsical
this with no
fairy.
homophobia.
No, no homophobia whatsoever, just love and admiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people look like beautiful adult cherubs, and that,
Yes, and
yeah,
that is one
that's
of
one of
them.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Oh, it's interesting to hear you talk about this because I feel like my process has been really similar for teaching, where like at the very beginning of the pandemic when I started teaching, I was trying to teach a 75-minute class where I covered Planned Parenthood's fries, my Yes to No Spectrum, and the Wheel of Consent, which now I teach over the course of like 4 2-hour long sessions. And also I was teaching them in the reverse. So I was starting with like the massive one, the Wheel of Consent, and then going to the Yes No Spectrum and then going to Fries. And I kept having these sort of like aha moments of like, oh, it should be in the reverse so that we're
Hmm.
starting small and building up to big. That was a big learning moment. Then spreading it out into 3 separate classes. And like now I'm like, I look back and I'm like, what were you doing? Like, that's insane to try to
Totally.
cram that all in. But that was all part of the process. And then also like learning, how the order in which to teach things on a more minute level. And then also like how the words to use, what is confusing to what routinely confuses people and what routinely makes sense to people. And, learning to anticipate reactions and where to like bring in personal stories and where to try to make people laugh and disarm them and things like that. Like I've been doing this for
Totally.
long enough that I have thought of like, oh, this almost feels like what I've come to understand it's like to like build a stand-up set.
Completely. And like having instead of having a very one note class,
Yeah.
you bring in those other elements and it gives everyone a little break. And then it's like, oh, okay. Now we can go back to this like really hard part of this topic. Or, yeah.
Right.
I think anticipating people's questions, no matter what you do, is like one of the best skills that you can have.
Totally, totally. I have been able to do that more and more and more, and it's very exciting when I'm able to do that. And another skill I think is like learning what is like behind the question.
Yeah.
Like, and often in what I'm teaching, it's a lot of like fear, like fear of doing something wrong or attempts at reading someone else's mind. Like
Mm,
a lot of the questions that I get come like my response to them is like, it's a lot about like, well, how do you handle it if someone else blah blah blah, or like how do you help other people figure out whatever. And I'm all like, most of my answers have something to do with like, start with yourself, start with yourself, start with yourself.
totally. Oh, yeah. And just accept that you are really not like the facilitator for other people in the way that you would like to be.
That's right, that's
Yeah.
right. Like you
I
are
always
not.
wish I could be that, but it's not real.
Oh my God. I mean, how you can burn yourself out. I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, my friend Hannah, who was also on the show, about how, like, I used to date people, I used to find myself in, like, rather codependent relationships where I was the caretaker and I dated a lot of people with, like, severe substance abuse issues and really severe mental health issues. You're smiling.
I'm smiling.
Do you want to tell people why you're smiling? You
I'm
don't have
smiling
to.
because you're like, I used to have these kinds of relationships, and I'm like, oh, and now you found one as a friend.
Well,
That's so beautiful.
yeah, but can I
Oh,
say
yeah.
you're sober
Yeah. As often as I can be.
for a good 5 minutes a day? No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
I try to
No, no,
be.
I'm joking. But no, I mean, it's funny. There was a tipping point where, like, at a certain point, instead of having a lot of friends who were like actively using substances in really self-harmful ways, I found myself making friends with a lot of people in 12-step programs and in
Totally.
recovery. And I was like, oh, it's like the same people. And I also have had to really look at like, I'm so lucky that all my friends are still alive.
Oh, huge. It's awesome.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And there will be an age, kind of regardless of why, where that's not true for us. And like
Totally.
that, it sounds devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, there really are some people in my life, or like people I've dated in the past who like, I'm like, it's amazing that you didn't die.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
anyway, I used to find myself in a lot of relationships, whether it was like my roommates had substance abuse issues, my partners had substance abuse issues, and like severe mental health issues. Those often obviously go hand in hand. And I was really, I don't know, I think I had a lot of guilt around like having, whether it was like the very privileged upbringing that I had, or like that I had work that was sustaining me, or that I had, I thought I had like pretty stable mental health, which I didn't always. I thought I was very healthy, which also I was not. But, so I was like over giving and giving and giving. And that allowed me to like not look at my own shit. So there's a very symbiotic relationship there where like I don't want to look at the stuff that I have to tend to in me. So I'm just going to look for people with enough problems that I can just pour what little I have into them. And what I was talking to my friend Hannah about yesterday was how drastically that has changed as I've learned to take care of myself. I'm finding myself dating people and in relationships with people who are way better at taking care of me. And like,
Totally.
interestingly, it's like I actually need less of that because I'm taking very good care of myself now. But that makes it all that much nicer to like receive that kind of care and support from people who care about me. Where it's like I'm getting more care now that I need less because I know how to take care of myself.
completely. Because now you value that.
Yes.
And then when other people, I also think it's like, it's so much easier to identify once you're caring for yourself. You're like, oh, that thing is also, this person is caring for me. And I'm
Right.
actually able to receive it because now I know how to do it and I know
I
how to,
know, and I know what it feels like, and that I like it, and that I deserve it.
yeah, like now it matters to you.
Right.
Because
Right.
maybe for many years you were just like,
I don't need
why
it. I
would we
don't
be
need it.
focused on me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, I'm finding myself dating a caretaker, like a very, someone who's very much a caretaker for probably the first time in my life. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what
Yeah.
is this? I've never had this before. And there's like moments where I'm uncomfortable, and then I have to be
Totally.
like, you deserve this, Mia, you know? Like at midnight when he's like, give me 20 minutes, I'll make you carbonara. And I'm like, you don't have to do that.
You're like, no, go to bed and
Yeah,
I'll
go
be
to
hungry
sleep.
all night. That's
Yeah, I'll
that's
do the
what it should be.
dishes. Right.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's also a way that like I love caretaking. It's such a wonderful experience for me to get to give that to someone. And like how silly of me to like not let anyone give that to me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and if you can't receive it, it's like then it's all one directional and who's, pouring into your cup and what are we doing here?
Right. You know, I do you know what the wheel of consent is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'll show it to you next time we hang out. But it's a framework, and like it's an XY axis diagram that helps you determine who something is for. So it's like the basic idea without like a diagram is like you can do something to someone for them.
Mm,
And so obviously you can be the recipient of that,
right.
but you can also do something to someone for yourself.
Hmm.
And you can also, of course, be the recipient of that. So like for example, you can think about like touching someone's hair to make them feel good, like head scratchies or whatever. And then you can think about like touching someone's hair because it's nice to play with.
Yeah.
Like those are two different things. One is for you and one is for me. And both are great. But like consent, people have to like agree to like which role that they're in.
Yeah.
So one of the things Betty Martin came up with this framework, and one of the things that she says is like you get better at giving when you learn to receive.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would argue if you're just giving, like you guys aren't really in relationship with each other,
Mm,
you know?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. I feel like a lot of people I know are in the camp of like really comfortable with giving,
Yeah.
really struggle to receive. But I mean, you just have to be, it's vulnerable to receive something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that she talks about as like the kind of way, or my interpretation of this is like one of the ways to learn to receive, especially if you're someone who like feels like you don't deserve it, or you feel guilty, or you're concerned with like, oh, I have to reciprocate. What she talks about is gratitude, and I think about like with sex in particular, right? Like if someone is doing something to me, like if someone's going down on me and I'm preoccupied with like, well, geez, like it's been 20 minutes and like, are you okay? And like, do
Am
I
I
have to,
taking
do we
too
switch?
long? Totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's just to like, but there has to be trust there, right? And it has to be in a dynamic where you're not having to read someone's mind, so that you can trust that they're giving this to you as a gift. That's what they want to be doing.
Yeah.
Or you can also be, I mean, that's a great example too of you can go down on someone for them, and you can go down on someone for you. Like, oh, it's one of my favorite things to do is to like go down on someone just because like that's what I like. I'm gonna explore and play.
Totally.
And then obviously I want you to tell me if like I'm doing something that hurts or like doesn't feel
Right.
good or whatever.
Yeah.
But like mostly I just want to like have a good time and like make some art down here, and like you get to just sort of see what that's like for you
Yeah.
within reason. but you know, also like the same activity can like change whether it's for you or for me, like moment to moment or like whatever. Um, but yeah, that you know, if you're worried, like, oh, it's been a long time, or la, 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 like to just be like gratitude, like thank you. Oh my gosh, this is thank you for doing this for me.
Completely. Well, and people I think are so much more comfortable if it's like, okay, I'm going down on you and it's for me. It's like, oh, great, then have a ball.
Yeah, have a
But as soon
ball.
as the maybe it's pressure to they feel that it's like pressure to have a good time or to receive in like a way that's like quick or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think people are so much more comfortable with like somebody else is doing this for them and I am a
Right.
part of it. Yeah,
Right. But so that's an interesting, like, I agree with you. And yet it's like, um, that quadrant of this diagram is like where I think most people struggle.
totally.
It's called the taking quadrant, which like that word can have some negative connotations, but like within the circle, there's like a, you know, a limit where it's like inside is consensual and then outside is not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like, you know, so long as it's very clear, like I want to, like, can I explore your body? You know, like please tell me if you don't like anything, but like for the most part, I just want to go to town. Like that is, I so enjoy when someone wants to do that to me. I'm like,
Totally.
please do whatever, you know, like I'm your oyster.
Yeah, and it
Um,
feels so nice to be enjoyed,
yes.
right? I mean,
Yes, right. But I think a lot of people do struggle, and I mean, I'm also speaking like for myself that sometimes it does feel that, like it feels selfish. Like there's like a fear that it's selfish. I think there's something about going down on someone where that isn't really there, like
mhm,
because it can feel kind of once, you know, like I'm,
totally.
you know what I mean? But like,
But for
I don't
other
know.
things,
Yeah.
to me, like, and I don't always feel this way. Like, it's definitely challenging sometimes. But I'm so comfortable with there being moments of selfishness and then trading off.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like a lot of things I want to do are really just for me, and I've gotten to a place where I'm like, I'm completely happy to ask for that. And next we'll swap, or next
Yeah.
time it's all you. And you don't want it to become like a point system where it's like, well, last
No,
time
no,
it
no.
was just XYZ. But as long as there's some like give and take, I think that's
Right.
it's so fun. Because there's a
Okay.
lot of stuff that's just, it's yeah. You're not gonna
Yeah.
align on everything you want. But
Right, right. Right. And then, you know, the other person then can be like, that might not be like my genuine desire, but like I love that you want to do that and you can do that.
completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
Um, like I want to nuzzle someone's armpit. You don't
Uh-huh.
have to enjoy me, you know, you don't have to be like, "Oh my God, I love when you nuzzle my armpit." So long as you're like, "Yeah, you can you can go, you know, go for it."
Fine. Get in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right, right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that happens a lot with kink, you know. It's like I don't care if you, yeah, like if you want to worship my feet, like okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, you know. Like fun for me to watch you enjoy that, but I'm not really getting like sexual pleasure at, but that's fine.
Right.
Um okay, so then question for you. We're getting personal. How good are you at asking people to do stuff to you for you?
Oh, to me for me. Ooh. I'm okay. I'm getting better. Like I would say now I'm good, but I don't think that's always been true.
Same.
Yeah, I think I mean the biggest change happened when I got sober and then immediately physically transitioned because I was like I noticed that once I was sober, it was unbearable.
Turns out
I thought
they were
I've got this
related.
totally locked in, and all of a sudden I have to feel all my emotions, and now I absolutely
Right.
have to transition. But another thing that went with that was being super real about um like sexual acts that actually caused me a great amount of dysphoria that I had just
Mm-hmm.
been. I think I was under the impression that I liked them. Um, because I really enjoyed how much the other person liked them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it took a really long time for me to be like, oh, no. There's like an entire category of things that I'm doing that are maybe like total red light no's. And there's
Yeah.
this whole new category of like yellow light for them things that I'm excited by. And then vice versa, like how do I ask for people for what I actually want for
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
That one took like I think the longest to come. But now I'm
Yeah.
like, getting good. Love doing it. Know what I
Yeah.
want. That's like it's really nice to know what you want.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And I try to remind myself of like how amazing it is when someone else can ask me for what they want and it's like really specific and really clear. And then
Yes.
I get to be like, "Yes, I can. I can do that for you."
Yeah.
And because I think there's like certain things that I've noticed are harder for me to ask for, and it's like probably things that are in normative culture like taboo or whatever.
Totally.
Um, or not even taboo, but like that people think are weird or gross or whatever. I like butts. That's where what I'm getting
You
at
like
with that.
butts?
I like
Yeah.
butts. I like butts. Um, and but yeah, like there's like something about asking for things that have that sort of stigma around them that like feels extra vulnerable.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I
I feel
think
that a lot. Or I
yeah,
mean a lot of it's internal, like it's not really coming from my partner being like
no.
I don't have a lot of experience of people being like, "What? That's
Ew.
so nuts." But
Yeah.
it's like internal shame of like this thing I'm asking for. I think a lot of people would have something negative to say about it.
Right, but like nobody that I'm dating
Yeah.
weirdos and
Dating little sick
queers.
freaks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone I'm dating is a weirdo.
Yeah.
That's why I'm dating them, and that's why they're dating me. Like, I think like I found myself at a party this last weekend. My dear friend Evan, who I've known for like over 10 years, we worked together at a restaurant in the Gramercy Park Hotel. It was a very uptight, fancy restaurant. And he's now in finance, um, which I say disparagingly. It's not disparaging. He does really wonderful work, actually. I really admire what he does. And but I'm like his only friend like me. Like I
Yeah.
showed up to this party like I we were talking about this the other day, like, or we were sort of talking about something adjacent to it not being Jewish enough, but like I
Hmm.
frequently in queer community feel not queer enough, which is like
Interesting. Yeah.
silly. Um, it's silly, but then I go to a party like Evans, and I'm like, I am visibly queer here. Like I am like
Yeah.
obviously queer, and whether or not anybody knows in what way or like what that means like doesn't matter, but that's a place where people are like, that's a lesbian.
Right. And now all of a sudden you're in this role that is so opposite to how you normally feel about
Yes.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I still like, I don't know. It's funny. Like I sometimes I was watching Gossip Girl for a while, and I often have these moments of being like, oh, those are cis women. This is not
Yeah.
that.
This is
Like,
not cis
no
women.
one is looking at
Completely.
me thinking, but then there are people who, like I think I maybe talked to you about this a little bit. Like, I definitely had like really, it was like a week maybe of like, oh no, I'm gonna be in like a straight passing relationship. Like, what a nightmare. And it's like more about, even though we had a really cute conversation where he was like, I don't think anyone would think that we're straight people. And I was like, well, my mom's friends would think that we're, like there's like
Yeah.
those people, yeah, but like they don't know. Um, anyway, yeah, brief crisis. Not because I care if people think I don't care. If people think I'm straight, they're dumb. But more because if they're thinking that I'm straight, they see me as a woman, and that is disorienting for me.
Yeah, I hate that. I mean, it's like what you said about the trees earlier, but it's like
Uh-huh.
if in your world there are gay people and straight people,
Right.
then it feels uncomfortable to go in the straight box.
I
Yeah.
loved the joke in your song at your event where you were like, if you don't think a
Oh yeah.
straight
If you think a
relationship
straight relationship can't be
can't be
gay.
gay, you're probably cis.
Yeah, I can't I don't think I've ever had a straight
Me
relationship except for
neither.
that one in college.
Yeah.
And even that a little gay.
Wait, I said me neither, but that's not really true. I definitely like there was a period in my 20s where I knew I was queer, like I never thought I was straight, but I kind of was like, well, I keep dating men. Like I just keep dating men, so like I
Yeah.
guess that's me. And then, some of those relationships now I'm like, those were queer relationships.
Completely.
And then there are other relationships that I was trying to fit into, and I'm like, oh, those were straight men.
Yes.
Whereas like these other relationships, I really think that some of those people who identify as men are like non-binary or trans femme. And then other ones of them are just queer, they're queer. And I'm queer. Like I'm a queer person. So I was never in a straight relationship.
No.
I was attempting to be,
Right.
and
You
it
thought
wasn't
you were showing
working.
up that way and probably not. And probably a big part of why it didn't work is that disconnect.
Yeah.
Like I think there's so many relationships where if I zoom out, like the real core of the problem is like they dated a lot of women and not maybe not exclusively, but I was showing up and being like, why am I your girlfriend and not your boyfriend? Like the way
Yeah.
you treat me is really foreign to me and I don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that is a common thing. When I was in high school, I remember saying, I think I'm a gay boy, and like not understanding what that meant because I at the time like didn't really know that trans men existed,
Totally.
because I knew that, trans women have always been, for better and for worse, in the media,
Hmm.
often portrayed really horribly, very disparagingly. But
But
but we
there
were
weren't really trans
aware.
men. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Or I
not
mean, non-binary
well,
people, it
they
was a
were,
very small thing.
because the umbrella of woman encompassed a lot more,
Yeah.
like now we just call them different genders, but like you used to, there were like butch women and there were
Yeah.
like tomboys and there were, whatever, like, and then also for a lot of girls, like being one of the boys, quote unquote, or like, that's like a positive thing.
Yeah.
And so you don't, there's not this same sense of like transgressiveness that leads you to be like, well, I have to like differentiate myself this
Yeah.
way.
But it's so rewarded to be one of the boys if you're showing
Right,
up in a very cisgender way.
right, right,
Totally.
right. Yeah, not if you look like a dyke.
No. Did you ever read Lou Sullivan's Diaries?
No,
Oh,
but
I can't recommend it enough,
I
Mia.
should do that.
It
I
totally
should do that.
changed my life. But it's like fascinating to watch someone so long before the internet, like slowly through years of building community, piece together. I can't imagine without someone introducing the idea that this is possible, realizing that you are both a man and a gay man
Yes, right,
is
right.
like but you watch them, you watch him walk through it and it's like it's yeah, it's
Wow.
yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so much in there. I know that there's like cultures where it's like better to be trans than gay because then at least you're straight.
Yep. Fascinating.
What? Yeah. Okay, I feel like we've been talking for a while and I'm trying to think if there are
I know
any
we've
like,
done everything.
I know, but are
Yeah.
there any like loose ends or like things that you wanted to say that you didn't say, or things that we left
I
open?
don't think so. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, then where can people find you and anything you want to plug?
Where can people find me? I'm all over the internet at non-binary cowboy, and That's like the only sentence I still say in the most Chicago accent that I really don't know. Like, I think
What
it's
was the
left
accent?
me.
Wait, do it again.
When I say cowboy, non-binary cowboy is like
Cowboy?
so. It's something about there's like kind of an A in the O.
Uh-huh.
I
Yep.
haven't lived there for a long time. I don't really know. Anyways, yeah, I'm online, you might say. And if you live in LA, I do a show that travels around called Gentlemen's Club. It's an all trans show, and I think that's the bulk of where I'm around. I walk
Hmm.
around, and you could see me outside as
Yeah,
well.
both of us. If
Oh,
you walk
and
around enough, you
you'll
will
see us.
probably see us
I was gonna say at Parsha class, which you
at
you plugged.
at Parsha class, at Jewel, at various queer events, sometimes places where you can get tattoos.
Hmm.
Um,
I'm at
and
restaurants all the time.
yeah, I am at restaurants. I drink coffee in public a
Hmm.
lot, a lot. But wherever the gays go is probably where you'll find me, so long as dogs are allowed.
That's hugely
Most
true
of
about
the
you.
result,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and there's a large overlap there, I'd say.
Man, you'd love AA meetings. People are bringing the craziest dogs in there. You would not believe.
I
Some of
cannot
them,
imagine. What?
some of the dogs, I'm like, those are at home dogs.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you can't imagine.
I was gonna say I feel like if I went to any AA meeting on the east side of Los Angeles, I would run into someone I know. I
Oh,
run into
yeah.
people I know constantly, and I feel like the one place that I'm not going where like my friends are probably most concentrated is at AA meetings.
Yes. Yes. It's everyone you know, and it's people you didn't know were sober.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day I was at a meeting and there was this really young kid there who was sitting next to me and they leaned over and they said, "You're on TikTok, right?" And I was like,
Uh,
"Yeah." And I had a moment where I was like, "That was so cool. I got recognized." And then I was
yeah,
like, "I got recognized at an AA meeting."
at an AA meeting. Yeah.
This is not the same.
I mean, you did just tell everybody that you're in AA, which is,
Yeah.
yeah. So if they want to find you, they'll find you. That's a really funny thing that I didn't know that we had in common. Like when we first met, just that we're like both mildly internet famous,
Yeah.
and like
But for
what
very different,
for very
like
different.
everyone I know follows you.
Yeah, that makes sense to
Yeah.
me. But I've also seen your stuff like on my friend, like my friends reshare your stuff, and
Yeah. But and
there's
vice
something going on with
versa.
your microphone. It's
Oh,
making weird
I'm
sounds.
I'm twiddling something. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
stop
I was twiddling.
twiddling.
Yeah.
How dare you twiddle? Um, yeah, anyway, I don't know. The idea the like I've been recognized now, like someone came up to me at Temple at Nefesh who was like, "You came up on my Instagram feed," but it was because of when Gigi Hadid reshared my post about Israel. Um,
Gigi. Oh my gosh.
wait,
I
do you
didn't
not
know
know
that.
about this? Oh,
No.
oh, oh. I made a post like in the week after October 7th
Hmm.
that said what I thought was the most obvious, innocuous possible thing. It said there's nothing Jewish about what Israel is doing in Gaza.
Hmm.
Um, Critiquing Israel's actions is not anti-Semitic, and being pro-Palestinian does not is not the same as being pro-Hamas. Like,
Yeah. All I
duh.
think incredibly what I would assume are non-controversial
I
statements,
would
and
also
yet.
assume. And yet, oh, you are in for a ride.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't go on Instagram on Shabbat. So I posted this on a Friday, I think, and then didn't go online. And then on Sunday, like opened Instagram and this post had 80,000 likes. And because I didn't want to engage with fucking stupid people, I didn't even go look at like who was resharing it because I was
Of
like, I don't want
course.
the commentary, I don't want the hate, I don't want to know. Normally I look, but like this one I was like, ugh.
Right.
So on Monday, I was kind of like, whoa, like what's going on? Like someone must have reshared this who has like a large following. On Monday, I got a phone call from my friend Minachi, and she was like, "Hey, do you know that Gigi Hadid reshared your post, and then the Israeli government's Instagram reshared it, coming for her?" Um, and I was like, "What are you talking about? No, I did not know that." And then I go look, and I look at the reshares, and people are like, "I'm with Gigi," like da 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 da. And then I start getting
Wow.
all these Google alerts that like my I was in Rolling Stone, I was in Variety, I was in Deadline, I was in like, The Cut, like all these, and then Minachi started sending me videos from TikTok of people talking about this and my
Yes,
post.
it's
And
in the
she
background and they're
it's in
like
the
green screened over
yes,
it. Yeah.
yes, with my
Oh,
watermark and everything. And then they were like, and then the Israeli government posted this, and and then people started critiquing how like they were like the Israeli government is more preoccupied with like arguing with models than like blah blah blah.
yeah. The Israeli government is the only government I'm aware of that has tweets promoted on my fucking timeline. And
Oh
I
my
live in the
God.
I'm like, why am I have them
Whoa.
blocked because I'm just like, look, you
Yeah.
spent money to get an ad to me, an American.
Haha.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay, but then it gets
Awful.
weirder. So
It's already
then
so weird,
it's
Mia.
so weird. I know. So then um, I like was like, do I go outside? Like, do people know where I am? Like, am I safe here? Do I have to go stay with my parents? Or like, I walked outside and like a van drove by and I was like, oh my God, are the people gonna come grab me and put me in this van? I got really, really paranoid. And then my phone started glitching out. And my friend told me that her friend, like I said, this is what's going on my phone. And she was like, my friend who's like a tech person said that's Pegasus. That's the like Israeli spyware. So I turned my phone off. I ended up like spending a whole day at Apple trying to get a new phone.
Mm.
Um, I installed like extra security at my apartment. I mean, it was crazy. It was so terrifying. It felt so violating. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then somehow I was like, how how did I get involved? Like, why am
Right.
I
By making
now
what you feel are pretty innocuous statements. I think, yeah,
reasonable? And they called it anti-Semitic. The Israeli government
right.
reshare said this post is anti-Semitic.
They love that one.
They love
It
it.
it's so effective, I think, because it's so painful.
Yeah,
The rationale of it, I mean, it's a complete shutdown of any conversation when it becomes you're a self-hating Jew
right,
and you're anti-Semitic and you don't love your own people. And it's like,
right,
wow, that couldn't be further from the truth. You're trying to
no,
uphold Jewish values and
right,
yeah.
right.
But it's
They're
so it's so wild that an entire government would have your tweet and be
spying on me.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a friend the other day that like the way that Israel has managed to conflate any critique of the government with anti-Semitism is such a surefire way to guarantee generations of future anti-Semitism. And it's creating this situation in which a lot of people now think and are acting in such a way that they think that the way to critique Israel is by being anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So it's like it's furthering anti-Semitism. Like the whole the way that they've conflated uh, critique of the government with anti-Semitism is leading to more anti-Semitism. It's like, well, okay, then that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
And I also was thinking about how like the Jews didn't used to be considered white, and like now there are Jews who are not white, but like Jews have successfully kind of assimilated, and I have a lot to say on that, at least in this country.
Yeah.
And like we are white, like I benefit from white privilege. I'm perceived as white, blah blah blah. But the result of that is that they've created this kind of like racism against white people, quote
Yeah.
I'm using quotes, and calling it anti-Semitism. And so like anti-Semitism has like an accusation of anti-Semitism holds so much more water than being like that's racist for anyone else who's not white, because Israel has succeeded in convincing people that like the worst kind of race, it's bad to be racist against white people.
Yeah.
It's like it's yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. I mean, from top to bottom, um, kind of a failure of a project.
oh yeah, yeah, it
And
failed.
also, to me, it's so frustrating because it's like, we were just talking about this, but it's like, the flag has the Star of David on it.
Right.
So wearing that proudly feels very Zionist, and that's very frustrating. We have all these prayers where we say, Israel.
Yeah.
And if you're a non-Jewish person and you're seeing those and you don't understand the context, it really looks like Jews in America are praying to Israel rather than
Israel.
to praying to the concept of Israel, us all being, a part of that.
And Israel literally means like those who wrestle with God.
Right. And it's
Right.
just like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I know the Jewish star thing is really complicated. Like, my Jewish star that I've been wearing lately is a heirloom from my grandmother who passed away when my dad was 10. So I never met her. And it's like very, very precious to me. But it's like pretty gaudy. It's like pretty big.
yeah,
And I worry, whenever people are like, nice necklace, I'm like, uh-huh. Like
yeah.
I don't, but
And
let,
and in what way? And
yeah,
in what
yeah.
way
What
do
do
you
you mean
find it
by that?
nice?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you want
yeah.
to tell the story about running the marathon or no? Should we-
Sure.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Let's end with
Okay.
that. End with
Yeah,
that.
that sounds great. I was on
Okay.
my way to run the LA Marathon, um, and I had my big old Star of David out, slapping around in the wind as I was walking up to Dodger Stadium, and I ran into this guy who, first of all, he had like a full jersey with his name on it. Like this guy does marathons.
Wow.
He flew in from Miami and he had like tzitzit on his like under his shirt. And he was wearing a kippah and he had this sign that said to fill in on board. And he ran into me and he was like so excited to see, another Jewish guy coming up to run the marathon. And he was like, we should run together. And this is a time where you really have to feel out the vibe. Is like, where are we on Israel? What's going on? Luckily for me, he runs almost twice as fast as I do. So we
Good.
did not have to run together. But it was, I mean, a solid like 15-minute walk to the stadium where we're just like talking about our own personal theology, and his keeps coming back to Israel and why it's so important. By the time we got there, I was like, oh, thank goodness this is over. And we wrapped to fill in together. It was really special. The sun was rising. It was great.
Well,
And
part of the
then
reason, worth mentioning, part of the reason why it's really special is because only men do it.
yes, oh, I mean, I could go into a whole my whole experience of being bar mitzvahed is like just
Yeah.
relied on passing,
Right.
which to me was really affirming to have it not be a progressive synagogue, but instead was like a confirmation that I'm seen as a man. It was a big deal
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah. Really special. But
very special.
but yeah, and then we parted ways and he went on to run the marathon so fast.
Wow. Good for
And
him.
yeah, we need more Jewish athletes.
Underrepresented.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it about us? Why aren't we? We're
It's
just
our
not athletic.
bodies.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
not.
Not to be racist, but it's our bodies and how
Not
they
to be
work.
racist, but yes, it's the inbreeding and that we all have bad, fragile tummies.
We don't have
And
height. Like heights, a
yeah, we're
lot of sports
little.
take height. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not known for our brawn.
No. I really wish, yeah. How cool would it be if all Jews were like jacked for no
Well,
reason?
my dad is 6'4" and he's all Jew.
That's
And I
wild.
I
Actually,
know.
I take that back. I do know some incredibly tall Jews.
But he's not an athlete. Oh my God.
No,
He's
no,
like,
the tall ones are no.
yeah, no.
They're like writers, and you're like, okay.
Yep, yep. Journalism, joint journalism and law graduate degree with a history BA. Like, nerd,
Wow.
nerd town. Wears glasses. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You gotta wear
Knock knee
glasses.
like me. Yeah. Not an athlete. Okay, Charlie. That
Hey,
was,
thanks for having me.
yeah, thanks for being here. We covered everything.
Everything.
Absolutely everything.
You thought we were done. We said Israel. It's time. Let's go.
Can't leave that stone unturned.
No.
Oops. Okay. Thanks.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, thanks.
Bye. Thanks.